tonight is for a study session. We scheduled it last week, and tonight our study session is intended to discuss a way going forward from where we are with our city administrator selection process. So tonight, we'll not be able to vote during this study session, but all of the participants can get their ideas on the table for a way to go forward with the selection process. When you look at our session tonight, when I get into our formal board meeting, there are a couple of items on the agenda that provide for an opportunity for us to look at the candidates that have been down selected by the Citizens Committee to go from the 7 that they have recommended to either add to or take from that group. Once we decide how we're going to do that, then we can talk about a way to narrow it further through an interview process. So with that, I'll just open the board up for anyone that wants to get an oar in the water. So, Alderman Berry, I see you have your hand up.
I don't really have an oar to put in the water yet at this point, but I do want to clarify to make sure that I understood the process correctly. From what we had talked about, it was applications, do that. We'd have the Citizens Committee, and they would score based off resume, cover letter. I thought that possibly they'd interview. I thought I saw it in parentheses. Maybe that was later. But my understanding is that it was never that they were going to narrow down. It was that they were going to score, and we would juxtapose that with our own scoring, and then we would narrow that down. That's what I had understood the original process to be versus, is that?
Yeah, can I?
Yeah.
I have this is the sheet that I passed out. If you check in the minutes, during the meeting when we were discussing and voting upon the order of business that we would use to hire the city administrator. Daniel was correct in saying it was never the Citizens Committee's job to narrow down the list of applicants. It was always been, and I even had it underlined here, it says BOMA to review all applications and narrow the group to be interviewed. So that was supposed to be the task of the BOMA to do that. And then at the time is when the BOMA narrowed the applicants to a certain number, and we never agreed upon a number at this time. Then the Citizens Committee would have been established to interview and rank those people that the BOMA decided on needed to be interviewed. And then also the BOMA would interview those people. The reason, the thought for having the Citizen Committee to rank them, it was just giving us, the BOMA, another tool so we could see what someone else's opinion was of them, and as we formed our final opinion. It was just another tool in our bag. So it wasn't, they were never supposed to eliminate any applicants. All people eliminated would have been for the BOMA to do so.
Well, the reason I asked that was because there's just been, I started getting confused because there was confusion, I think, in the community and here as well. But that's what I had thought. I wanted to clarify. Let's make sure that we're all looking at the same process and make it clear to everybody what that process is again, because I think that that's where and we'll probably hear comments tonight on, people talking about you kind of didn't go with the process, or you did, or whichever, where I think that we somewhere, I feel somewhere we got lost in our own process somehow. But that's where I kind of wanted to start. I don't have a suggestion on where to move forward, but I wanted to make sure that we had all the right, we're sitting in the right boat, and that I understood what we were. Now somebody else can decide what it is.
Okay. I do not feel like that the committee should have any input whatsoever selecting a group to be interviewed. I think that should come from us. It should not be a committee doing it. And I'm going to tell you why. Number one, you have a committee putting their group. We do our group, and then there's interactions between the two. And then it gets out, this is what we did, they didn't listen to us, and then we back into it again. And I don't agree with that. I think the board of mayor and aldermen are the ones that need to do the city administrator. I think we are the ones that need to do this. I think we need to take the applicants and read them all and look at them, and then we will interview them, and that's where we're going to find our city administrator. I don't think there's any other way to do it.
I think I agree with that. I'll just, to make an initial proposal or whatever, and we could change it from there, what I would say at this point, I would say maybe the board of mayor and aldermen, I don't know if it would be at this meeting, maybe next meeting, to give us a chance to review the applications again or whatever, or if we're prepared tonight, do it tonight. The board of mayor and aldermen should pick 4 names from the entire list. Each person could maybe write out on a ballot or whatever, put in, and then the top 4 name getters would be the ones that the board interviews, and go forward with that. That's my initial proposal, to see what anyone else thinks of.
Well, I'll have to go back and say that, Alderman Glick, you're the one that proposed the Citizens Committee.
I did, but they didn't.
Committee, and each alderman picked a person to serve on that committee.
Correct, but the Citizens Committee, I don't know, they weren't directed properly. I don't know if it was who it was, whether it was, if it was, and I'm not going to make any accusations that say who it was directing them. I know it wasn't me, but I know what we voted upon was right here on the paper. I didn't follow it up myself to make sure it was done, so somebody gave the Citizens Committee the wrong information.
Yes,
it's not the Citizens Committee's fault.
Yes, let's talk about where the boat got lost. To begin, we'll just go in chronological order from today going backwards. This last meeting that we had last week, I wanted to know, and I asked when I came in today, who wrote that agenda item?
I wrote that agenda item with the help of Costa, with myself and Hunter Rogers. We agreed on the wording for the agenda item.
You agreed on the wording for that agenda item. Well, Mr. Mayor, I'm going to have to say, when you approached me outside of this building after the last meeting, you were really confused as to why we wouldn't want that agenda item, or why that meeting would have gotten canceled. So we can sit here and say that, you know, it's the city's fault or the personnel's fault, but our policy and how this board, not you, this board decided to proceed forward, you're saying that you deviated from that on purpose?
I discussed the process with Hunter Rogers for going forward for the selection of the committee. And to do the
Who gave the committee, who decided that the committee was going to make any selections? Because that is not what that paper says. They were supposed to evaluate and score the candidates. There is nothing saying that they were to narrow the field. In fact, it says, actually verbatim, that they are not to narrow the field. And in fact, I would like to read verbatim one more time what it says. It says the BOMA is to review all applications and narrow to a group to be interviewed. It does not say anything about the Citizens Committee narrowing the group. It says we are going to establish a Citizen Committee to interview and rank applicants. However, even if they rank applicants, that doesn't mean that they can narrow the applications. So why would you give that authority to Hunter Rogers, deviate from this very specific plan, and then bring us an agenda item knowing that that is not what we all agreed to do?
I did not, let me just say that I did not give MTS any direction. MTS assumed that responsibility for going forward with the ranking.
You put the agenda item on there.
Yes, I.
So this one's on you, Mr. Mayor.
At that point in time, the Citizens Committee had already met and had already done the ranking.
That's fine to do the ranking. We want them to do the ranking and evaluations, but when you put an agenda item together that says we're only going to be able to choose from these individuals, call a special called meeting, know that we can't revise the agenda item because that would violate the rules of board procedure, you're setting us up. And I don't appreciate, Mr. Mayor, I think we've established now where the vote went wrong, and I wanted to make sure that Jordan, because I'm just being honest, I wanted to make sure that there was no city staff involved with that. And I think that right now, it made board members a little uncomfortable as to who wrote that agenda item and how did it come out to be that way. And I think that it's very important for us to know that we should be following. If we're writing agenda items to be put, not just you, but if we're writing agenda items to be placed on this, and we've already set out a policy and a procedure to do that, we need to follow what we've already voted on. And just because you're the mayor doesn't mean that you have special privilege to deviate from the plan that this board voted on. And I'm just telling you, I'm a little miffed at that.
I'd like to say
On the
something too.
agenda item for tonight, we have the opportunity to make any changes to these 7 that we want to.
I'd like to thank the Citizens Committee for all the work that they did. I think it's very useful, the work that they did for the rankings and the scoring. Although the scoring tool is a little, I'm not so certain about the scoring tool, which they have no responsibility for, but they did a lot of work, and I think that what we set out for them to do was to compile the information and the scoring so that we could, as a board, mayor, and alderman, come together and make our selections on all the candidates. And that's what it was my understanding of what we were going to get together and do.
Yeah, can I proffer that, and that's why I wanted to lead with getting us all on the same page as to what the process is. I think we're all clear, right? We're all clear what the process is. So can I proffer that we just move forward instead of talking about what happened and all, where we're at. We all understand what we're doing, and so let's decide what we're going to do in the next meeting.
I think
and get that out of the way. Jerry had an idea, or Kurt, somebody.
Kind of combined.
There's been a lot of
area.
talk since
Yeah.
then. So, I would say if somebody has a different idea, then proffer that. If not, then, but I think for the sake of time, so that let's decide on a process and move forward.
So Kurt, you were saying that we would select each one of us would select 4.
Yeah, each one of us, I'm not sure exactly how to do it. Each one of us select 4, write it on a ballot, turn it in, and then the top 4 vote getters would be the ones that we would interview. If there was not 4, if there was, then we go a second round to fill in the final 1 or 2 or whatever on the ballots.
I have an idea, and I think that this probably needed to happen. I don't think we need to just discount, like Bobby said, what this Citizens Committee did and the citizens that we put on there. But I do think that we need to take it into consideration, and I think that is an integral part of this process. I propose that we have a joint work session with that committee to understand what they liked, why they liked those individuals, and where we can all come together and hear everybody at one time. And then in that meeting, we start gathering our 4 names, and we can do that at the following board meeting as present our 4 names. But I think that this is going to require, in order for us to meet sunshine laws and how we are coming to this decision of narrowing these candidates down, I think that it needs to be an open session, a joint session between this board and the Citizens Committee.
I don't know, based off of some of the letters, based off some of the emails, like I know that some of that committee didn't want to put their name beside some of the scores in those pieces. So I don't know that.
That would violate OPMA, so I'm sorry they have to.
Well, I mean, people were able to come to those meetings and they were open and they chose not to.
No, it still is
But,
OPMA.
so what I would, this is just study session, right? So we can't actually vote, and that'll be in the next meeting. I mean, before long, some of these people aren't going to be available anymore anyway. So,
Well, and I mean, these folks, they were given a rubric, they were given a scoring system, they did it. We have the rubric, we have their scores. We kind of know what they were thinking without dragging them back in.
Here's what we don't know, Derek. I think, and I've heard from a few of the members, they didn't create the rubric.
No, they didn't.
And I think that there's already been some citizens' concerns about the rubric and the flaws in the rubric. So I don't know that I have a clear picture of. I've talked to one or two of the individuals on the Citizens Committee, and I understand some of their thoughts, but that couldn't have been accurately conveyed in a rubric that this board didn't create, nor did that Citizens Committee create. It was created by MTAS. And to me, it obviously had a slant that we've already discussed and certain citizens have brought to us. I want to have a conversation with those individuals outside of that rubric and why they scored, and what, if they didn't have that rubric, who would be the top 5?
Well, yeah, I think, go ahead, Daniel.
yeah, well, I was going to say, I mean, I've talked to some of the people on the committee. There's nothing, the only time that there's a sunshine issue is if it's somebody who can actually make a decision on that, and none of them can. So I reached out and did my diligence and talked to who I needed to talk to get that understanding. And any one of us could have done that as well. I'm not saying that there's no legitimacy, but that has nothing to do with Sunshine Act, because Sunshine, you can't, they have no ability to make the decision. The only people who can make that decision are the 7 of us sitting right here.
They are agents of us.
Now they could deliberate amongst, they couldn't do it amongst themselves, like, because they were all providing, and that had to be sunshined, but there was nothing wrong with us speaking. So, I mean,
Here's my suggestion to the public and anybody in this board. Do not put somebody on a committee, or don't volunteer for a committee if you don't want your thoughts to be heard out loud, because that's the whole purpose of a public committee. So if there's information that you know that they don't want to share, I kind of have an issue with that. So I feel like, because we are agents of the public, and anything that we do up here on this board, and any agents that we select, and any committees that we create, they are subject to the same OPMA guidelines that this board is subject to. So what you said is absolutely false. And if I need to provide documentation of that, I can. What we need to do is make sure that we can back up the decisions that we're making, and that there is enough notice to the public as to why those decisions were made. Yes, we can go by these rubrics, and that's an option. If that's all we want to do, fine with me.
That's not what I'm saying.
But I'm just saying, I want to make sure that we give the due diligence this deserves, and I think that Jerry is spot on the money. It needs to come, the narrowing needs to come from us, but we do not, like Bobby said, need to discount the work that the citizens panel did.
Has all of the board members received all of the applications that were received?
Yes.
You've got an opportunity to review.
Yes.
Would you be prepared tonight in the open meeting, when we get to that, to do as Kurt suggested, to down select 4 counties?
Yes.
I'm interested in moving forward.
And, well, let me also proffer here that this process has taken a lot longer than it probably should have. I mean, it's been going on for a long, long time. I've forgotten how long it had been going on until I went back and started checking the minutes and everything else in the meetings. So what I would say is, let's streamline it, and let's interview the clients, and the board will make the decision. I don't think we need to have the assessment center and drag that out anymore. I think that assessment center could be just like all the discussions of the scoring, the rubric, I'll call it the scoring system, because if you control the scoring system, you can control the outcome. And I'm afraid the assessment center may be the same sort of thing. So I think we should be able, as a board, acting 7 people talking about it and interviewing people, should be able to make a decision based upon that, and the assessment center would just be another unnecessary delay. So that's my thoughts on that.
But what had been proposed in the last meeting was to actually rank the 7 candidates. If you did 4 tonight, would you be able to rank them as 1, 2, 3, 4?
Yes.
No.
I was.
do that. Here's the 4 names, not in a rank.
Yeah,
Actually, I'd like to do 5.
Five's fine with me.
I'd rather do 5 also.
5.
Yeah, I'd like to do 5. I agree with the assessment. When the MTAS came in and interviewed each of us about what we wanted and all that, and we got to talk, and something that I had talked to him about was the assessment centers are cool, right? But, and he actually talked about it first, is it's not, you don't get the bang for your buck out. They're expensive to do because you got to fly everybody in here. You don't get near the results that you think that you're going to get from those assessment centers. And, his kind of thought was, if you guys want to do it, we'll do it. But, what's better is a targeted interview, and then I just don't think that we should skip the panel with city staff. And I think we had talked about a citizen, that I think is more important than that ranking piece that we did. And I forgot that we were doing that. I thought that the citizens panel was going to be like an interview once we brought them in type. And I think that's where my confusion had gotten. So assessment center, I'm okay with skipping because I think it's just, you don't get the value out of it.
Right, yeah.
But the other 2, I do think are still important with, interview with their peers and interview with community are still important.
Okay. How will we properly and fairly do this without, first of all, getting this group, if we get down to the top 10, and then we do some interviews and pick from that the top 5? Because right now you're going to put 5 in there and we haven't even talked to them yet.
Have you been through the resumes?
Well,
I don't want to.
I think Jerry may be right. Maybe we want to do some sort of
I think we
group
need to.
Zoom. It doesn't have to be in person. I know a lot of these people live out of state and things. Maybe it could be possible for us to just do a on-screen, like a Zoom meet and greet with a few, maybe 8 to 10 of them, and then narrow from that list. Maybe we need to see them face to face, at least lay eyes on them, have a conversation, and then I think that's important. We're taking away the human part of this and the relationship part of this, and that's not what this position is. And I think that that's the reason I didn't answer the question. I don't know that I'm ready to say, hey, these are my top 4 or 5. I've never met but 2 of the candidates. And I'll tell you right now that those 2 would be on the list.
I'm not ready to give 10 names tonight.
I don't have.
Right,
you can give me 2 weeks and I'm not going to have 10 names.
Well, you can have 8.
There's not 8 names on that list that I want to.
That's yeah.
I mean, it's just.
we got the time to evaluate what they say and how we meet them and how they meet us.
Maybe they don't look good on paper, but maybe we see them and we love them. I think we give, I don't think that we discount that portion of it.
How are they choosing
This board has got to select those 8 or 9 or 10 candidates. We've got to
That's
do
a lot to
that
interview.
before we ever have any interviews.
Not an interview, just a meet
Well, why
and
don't
greet
we,
on Zoom.
And I'm good with that, but we've all had these resumes for close to a month.
Months.
A month and a half now.
I just got them the
spent
first
hours on
time, all of
this.
them the other day.
It's been about 2, it's been a couple of weeks.
I guess time goes by faster.
But we've all
No, I've
But
looked at all
what I'm
of it. I haven't
saying-
met any of them.
Yeah, well, that's what I'm trying to say, is we've all had them. So at this point, we should have all read them. So if we're going to go 10 names, then let's pick 10 names tonight and let's screen them. But I just continuing to, we've had these resumes for a while. So if I'm okay, if we want to screen 10 people, then let's screen 10 people. But let's all put our 10 names out there tonight and pick that and set the dates that we're going to screen. If we're going to pick 4, then we pick 4. But at this point, if we've not done our homework, we don't need another 2 weeks. We don't need another month. We've either done our homework or we've not done our homework. We're supposed to come to the meeting prepared and ready to do our job. So let's do our job.
Okay, there's an item on the agenda tonight, item number 38, to consider adding to or taking from the 7 names that came from MTS. You can use that as a starter point. You can add to it or take from it for recommending 10 names to go for an interview tonight. And move forward.
We could all give 4. And if they all happen to, or 5, we can all give 5. If they happen to be the same 5, then 5 gets screened. But if there's one different from you than is from mine, then we end up with 6. If there's one different there, then we end up with 7. But take that conglomerate list of 5.
That's fine.
Is that, right, yeah.
No, I don't think there's 10 on the list either. I was just saying, I don't want somebody to get discounted because of the rubric. I was just trying to find a fair way to do that.
But I haven't used the rubric at all. If you just go through these, do some simple Google searches, call reference, there's plenty of, everyone gave references to call and check with. I've done that. If you just dive into this, you can find almost everything you need out there. And I think the Citizens Committee could have too, if they were given the instructions that they could do that. But they were
Sure.
couldn't.
And I think that's something to be really clear on, is
They were
the
not
Citizens
allowed.
Committee did as
I don't have the list.
Yes.
And
We have the
so-
list.
We bootstrapped them.
Yeah,
I don't have the list with
they
me.
did as asked.
It's on page
Huge thank you for that.
248.
248.
It's not the Citizens Committee's fault at all.
In this
It's
second
nobody's.
paragraph.
No, it's not
It's
this.
nobody's fault. We're just where we're at. Let's just move on and go forward. But I've spent hours and hours and hours on this, and I'm ready to move forward.
Same.
Okay. Everybody ready to dive into tonight?
We have 5 minutes.
Let's take a 5-minute break till we get into the opening of the board meeting on the take 5.
meeting.
I wouldn't want to.
I don't think we ever left video.
I don't think we ever left.
Yeah, we did. Call the meeting, the regular Board of Mayor and Aldermen meeting for August 14th. At this time, we'll ask Reverend Chevy Shields to bring the invocation and lead us in the pledge. Please stand.
Most gracious God, we thank you for the many blessings of our local community. I pray for those who are in the offices that govern this community, that they make wise and godly decisions, which are always in the best interest of our precious community. We thank you for our sacred gift of freedom. We thank you that we can debate with one another for the good of our citizens. So I ask this evening for each leader in this room to be granted the blessing of peace and a sense that they have accomplished good work for the people of Tullahoma. Protect each person here, especially those in law enforcement and those in our fire department as well. These things, loving God, we ask in the name of Jesus Christ. And all God's people said, Amen. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Thank you, Reverend Shields. I'd like the city recorder to call the roll.
Almacher.
Here.
Berry. Glick.
Here.
Noes. Mann.
Here.
Mathis.
Here.
Wilson.
Present.
7 present. So tonight we have no commendations or certificates or special presentations. So with that, if we, like any of the citizens who have wished to address the board tonight, to please come forward, state your name and address. Limit your talks to 3 minutes, please. Seeing none, we'll move on to the agenda tonight. First off, I'd like just to get an approval of the agenda. Have a motion from Barry and a second from Mathis. All in favor of the approval of the agenda? Ready to vote? Agenda is approved 7-0. With that, we'll move into the reports from the Aldermen tonight. Alderman Glick, we're going to start with you tonight.
I have no report.
Alderman Berry.
I don't remember what all I did, but I did do something fun. Went to the Bowling with Badges event. I believe that was the first time that they've done that. And so the officers had an event at the bowling alley. It was well attended by both officers and children. And so that was, you love to see those kinds of things. And also just kind of a personal request, Mayor, and to you guys as well. I've been sitting in this seat, I guess, for 4 years, and my weight, I think, has finally killed this chair. Can we request a new chair? How do we do that?
It's not in the budget.
It's in the budget. I've been swapping with Jenna, but I think she caught on. That's all I've got, Mayor.
Alderman Almacher.
Yes, since the last meeting, we attended, several of us on this board attended the conference, the TML conference, Tennessee Municipal League conference, and I have to tell y'all, I had a great dance partner for the party that night. And Mr. Worsham, y'all, has some moves. And there's video evidence that he can outdance any one of us, I promise you. And we had a great time, had some good fellowship. with board members. Daniel and I actually sat next to each other. I want to give a shout out to the town of Bolivar, who have officially decided that they are Team Jenna. So I appreciate them, and I told them that I would do that tonight. And there's some great people that we get to fellowship with every year there, and we had a good time. We learned a lot, and we learned that we are losing farmland at an alarming rate all across the United States, and Tennessee is no exception to that right now. And the state is working on some initiatives and some legislation to help cities combat that, and ways in which, even if it's essentially maybe through the purchase of, kind of like where you could purchase mineral rights, but you could purchase development rights and things like that. They're going to start rolling out some initiatives like that, having us take a look at some of that. And I'm not sure that we'll be interested in doing any of it, but if you would like more information on that, please get with me and we can discuss that. And that is all that I have.
Thank you. Alderman Wilson.
Hi, thanks, Mayor. I'd like to just update everyone that starting this weekend will be a fall concert series on the courtyard over at South Jackson, at the courtyard stage this Saturday through September 16th. This particular Saturday will be Chase, Clanton, and Vintage Vibes, so everybody should plan to attend that. And then just something to keep on your radar is upcoming the Arts Crawl. We'll have Arts Crawl downtown again on October 17th in conjunction with the businesses downtown. That's always a really fun thing to be a part of. And then over at Tullahoma Fine Arts Center, they have a really awesome quilt show that's on display now through August 26th. So everybody make plans to visit that as well.
Alderman.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. A few weeks ago, I attended the TML conference in Nashville. I also took part in the Elected Officials Academy prior to the conference. I'm very proud personally of how this group represented the city of Tullahoma, not just in the discussions and the meetings that we had, but in the way everyone treated each other and really represented Tullahoma well. I also attended the TAEDC board meeting on August 1st, and then yesterday I was able to attend the welcome reception for our new public housing executive director, Brian Carter. Mr. Carter brings 25 plus years of experience to the job, and I think we can all agree he'll do a great job in his new role. That's all I have.
Alderman Mathis.
No report, Mayor. Thank you.
Well, since our last meeting, I've made several meetings, including one with Armour Community Council, the Planning Commission, and we have retail strategies meetings at least once a month, and talking about how to improve our retail in the city. And of course, the 22nd through the 25th was our TML meeting, and I was glad to see all of our aldermen there. Didn't see the Mayor Pro Tem, but the rest of the meeting. And everyone was, I think they represented Tullahoma very well, if you're correct in that respect. And then on the 21st, we had a TUA board meeting. And then we had another meeting on the 1st of August with the Middle Tennessee Industrial Development Agency over in Franklin. I attended. Then we had our special call meeting again, and then on last Thursday afternoon, we had a meeting with our home grants. They're represented by South Central Human Resources Development Agency that monitored those grants, and we had at least a half a dozen or more people here applying for those grants. It's $750,000 that the city has to apply toward improvements for homes in the city. That it's a scoring basis, and South Central does the scoring, so the city does not get involved in that. All we do is administer that grant. So with that, we're ready to move into the agenda for tonight. Before that, we've got a city administrator, we've got a city attorney that does have some things we need to hear from.
I had a real stiff Diet Coke before I danced with Miss Almack at the TML convention. She's a good dancer, and we all had a really good time. Those of y'all that weren't there should have been there. It was really a nice night, and I appreciate the opportunity to join you there. I was at the Tennessee Municipal Attorneys Association meeting in conjunction with TML, and two things that we discussed are that I think were important. One that Ms. Almack brought up about there's an initiative now to attend as we could to counter non-citizens buying farmland, especially near government installations such as AEDC. The state of Montana has already restricted that, so is North Dakota, and Tennessee is looking at that as well, because our enemies are going to buy land near our military installations and then have an ability to better monitor what's going on there and perhaps even affect the things that are going on there. So that's something we ought to be looking at. Secondly, they are also looking into conservation easements, which is where a method whereby people can devote their property for conservation methods and things without not using it. In other words, you can continue to use it, you can live on it, you can farm it and everything, but you can't sell it for any reason other than the way it is when you put it into that kind of an easement. So those are two ways that we can preserve our property. And Tennessee is going to look at both of those things and make them, they're already legal, the conservation easements are, but they're not being publicized the way they should be and could be. The legislation about restricting non-citizens buying property, I think, is very important. I think we ought to, if we can, ask our legislators to look into that, because that's a national defense issue that we need to be concerned about. This week was a good week for Tullahoma. We're $425,000 richer because we closed the sale of the old Rock 10 building on East Carroll Street on Friday afternoon. I also checked with Mr. Wes Fanning, who was the principal behind the development of the 127 West Lincoln Street building that we acquired in litigation a couple of years ago, and we sold to them. They're going to be developing an Italian restaurant there, a high-end Italian pizza parlor with entertainment venue and all that sort of thing, and they're progressing. There's been some delays because of some plans that are being prepared and that sort of thing. I was concerned that since there hadn't been much obvious progress, there might be a problem about that. That's not the case. Also, I met with some members of the board and staff last week, and we walked through some plans for the development of the downtown plantings all around downtown that need to be revitalized. There's an effort being made toward developing plans by Ralph Graham, who's devoted his time and his talents at no cost as a contribution to the city toward that effort. We have some funds already pledged by property owners in downtown Tullahoma. We have $15,000 pledged by the Noon Rotary Club for that endeavor, and I've talked to Ms. Wilson about that. We have some funds that are available for that, so we're going to be coming up with a really good plan to revitalize all the downtown plantings soon. Any questions? Okay, well, thank you all very much.
Thanks, sir. And we'll hear from our interim city administrator, Mr. Pearson.
Well, I just got back from being sick, so had 3 days off last week, and I think a few other people at work have contracted something, as we say. So I was fortunate enough to go to South Jackson Civic Center, take a tour of their facilities. We went through different areas. They've got new bathrooms that are functional now. I was able to go to the South Jackson Goes Country Saturday night. Finally felt good enough that I could go see that. The facilities are being used, and I know that a lot of people were really happy about that because it's always a big line at there. We do have our Monday market. I think Public Works, they're putting together some signs for the Monday market parking area to try to avoid having people parking in that area when they do the farmers market. I said Monday market, I think, twice. So I apologize, but when they have the farmers market on Monday, we're going to put up some signs to try to have no parking so that they can facilitate that use there. I was, 3 weeks ago, we had a HVAC unit go out at City Hall. I initiated an emergency purchase to purchase a new HVAC unit. The HVAC unit that was in question is 15, nearly 16 years old. We have had some issues with it in the past. The new the new purchase or for the part was going to be like $7,000, and it was going to have to be made, and it was going to be like 6 to 8 weeks out. They said they could possibly get an HVAC unit within 2 weeks. We still haven't seen the HVAC unit. Everything's so much on back order. So I went ahead and initiated that purchase. It's only about $24,000. Yeah, we have it budgeted in our maintenance budget, so that's covered. Just want to let y'all know about that. I also met with SIMNS on our network security since our IT manager has left us and went to bigger and better things. SIMNS has been gracious enough to step in and monitor our network and continue to keep our licensing and our everything that's to deal with security. They're keeping it up to date, and at the present time we're going to be looking at probably putting out for proposals for a company to do that, and I have that requested that SIMNS would do it as well. Really good company. Eugene London's been very easy to work with. Was able to pick up and right where our guy gave him all the keys and everything that he needed to get into everything. So that's worked out really well so far. But we're going to be looking at some different ways of moving that apart, moving that into maybe in other directions other than having an IT person here. We're going to try to maybe do some outsourcing on that. Just ideas that we're looking at to do. I also did go to this past Sunday and see Brian Carter at the Tullahoma Housing Authority meeting. I was able to open up the City Hall yesterday for them at 12:30, and the Mayor was gracious enough to close it out. That's all I have for this week.
Thank you, Mr. Pearson. Appreciate the work you're doing.
Oh, one other thing. I did hand out to all the Board of Mayor and Aldermen. Did you get one? What we've done, I've looked this up in the past. They've done resolutions on this. They've done it this way. I didn't know which way to do it. If I need to bring a resolution to the board at the next meeting, that'll be fine. I just want to let you know that we have reorganized the Parks and Recreation. And there's the first sheet is the new format. Second sheet was the old format, and the third sheet is the employees that are employed in that. We are fully staffed at the Parks and Recreation at the present time. They're doing a great job, and we appreciate them.
Thank you again. Again, appreciate the work you're doing. Moving into the agenda for tonight, we've already approved the agenda, but I'll read we approved the consent agenda. I'll read the caption of the consent agenda, which includes the minutes from our July 10th meeting. Next one is we will set a public hearing and a first reading for August 28th on a request to rezone the property in the 100 block of New Rock Creek Road on 2.85 acres from general commercial C2 to neighborhood commercial C3. It'll be a public hearing. Item number 131 is announce a vacancy on the Tullahoma Utility Authorities Board and to consider applications from interested citizens to serve on the full term of that board. That'll be ending in August 31st of 2028. It's a 5-year appointment to that board. We request to authorize the Tullahoma Fire Department to apply for a firehouse substation grant in the amount of $29,800 with no local match required. We have 133 to request to approve a permit to request for special events signs in the public right-of-way for community prayer walk on Saturday, September the 23rd, and waive all permit fees. Item number 134. Confirm the appointment of Melissa Sharan and Greg Gressel to the Tullahoma Fine Arts Council and to serve at the remainder of the unexpired terms ending August 12, 2025. Item 23-135 is to consider the approval of the annual appointments of the organizational representatives for the Chamber of Arts Council. And that's on page 30 is the details on that. And to announce 3 vacancies on the Tullahoma Arts Council and consider applications from interested citizens to serve for the remainder of the unexpired terms ending August 12, 2024 through August 12, 2025. Motion to approve the consent agenda. Motion from Barry, seconded from Mann. Ready to vote? Consent agenda is approved 7-0. Under unfinished business. Now, this is a rather lengthy ordinance, and I'll just read a brief part of it. This is an ordinance to amend the zoning map of the Tullahoma, Tennessee, as set forth in the municipal code, which is ordinance number 1392, to rezone parcels located on a very extended list of parcels, and these are parcels that are currently non-conforming lots. These lots are non-conforming, which means that the people that own the houses, for instance, can't even make upgrades to them until they're in a proper zone. So at this time, we're rezoning them on this passage of second and final reading to rezone these properties into the zone that they're actually located in. We have a motion from Barry and a second from Matt. In discussion.
I have discussion.
Yeah.
Okay, so you said something else that I think we need to do a little more due diligence and research on. It has been commonly said that these people have to have a permit, obviously, to do any construction or rebuild or, but I actually did a little research and have read some case law that says to the contrary, that we actually, if it is hazardous to the health, welfare, and safety to individuals and citizens in the community or the inhabitants of such, that if we deny them a permit, we could actually maybe have some liability in that. Let's say if they had a roof falling in or something and that there were inhabitants of that. So I think this is a policy issue that we might want to reconsider and have our city administrator look into, or interim city administrator, that if somebody comes in and they have a life or death issue, their roof's caving in, and they, are seeking shelter in a house that they've been there for the past 5 years, but it's zoned incorrectly. Denying that permit may not be in the city's best interest, and obviously not in the citizens' best interest. So I would like for that policy to be reconsidered, and that may be not something that we vote on. It just may be a policy that our administrator looks into.
Okay, with that, of course, this particular ordinance will correct a multitude of those challenges that we have right now. So we're ready to vote. Passes 7-0. Ordinance number 1600, an ordinance of the City of Tullahoma to amend ordinance number 1578, adopting the annual budget and tax rate for the fiscal year beginning July 1st, 2022, and amending 23rd. So this is for passage on the second of 3 readings for just cleaning up the last year's budget. Motion from Glick, seconded from Mann. Any discussion on that? Ready to vote. Passes 7-0. Ordinance number 1601, an ordinance to amend section 5-501 of the Code of Ordinances of the City of Tullahoma to change the percentage of hotel privilege tax allocated herein for the passage on second of 3 readings. It's on page 91 for the details on that. Motion from Barry, second from Mathis. This is to allocate funding to the Sports Council for background.
I would like to mention something.
You recognized?
After last meeting, and Alderman Berry was talking about, because originally my motion was to have the Equine Center in that slot, and that their permit had lapsed, and so I was looking at some other things that are lapsed, and so if you look at some of these, it's common that might be overlooked, somebody's charity status. But the Tullahoma Sports Council says that it's expired. Hands-On Science Center, Tullahoma Pride Foundation, Tullahoma Daycare Center, Historic Preservation Society of Tullahoma is expired. All of those are expired. And that was just the basis, that's the reason that was given that we should not consider the Equine Center. They have since remedied that. So I would like to reconsider my original motion.
It's not in order this time. We were voting on this particular item at this point in time.
Would you like to comment on that?
Yeah, that was one of the reasons I gave. The other reason was I think that I think it's a waste of tourism dollars. And I think that we can take $4,500 and put it into sports tournaments and probably more than triple that. And it's a bigger investment that's going to impact more people. That's the underwriting thing. Your tourism dollars are an investment. And it's the only money that we have that we're kind of expected to make more money with, right? And so that's the primary driver, is about what's the better investment. And it's going to have the biggest ROI, and it's going to be in our sports tournaments and in our kids overall there that we're going to see more. That's the primary reason. That was mine. But
Well, I mean, I would just like to just mention that, you know, if you were doing an investigation on one, it seems like that, and that was just based on, you know, you wanted to make sure that everybody was solid and
I'm okay with just going through and saying if that's what you're suggesting, if you want to make the motion that we go through and we pull all the funds from everybody, if you want to make that motion, then I think that that's a fair motion. But you'll need to make that motion.
No, I didn't suggest that we should pull funds. I think it's a common thing to have happened, and it was unfortunate that that's what you used to target the Equine Center.
I'll agree, you recognize.
This is unpopular, but I'm going to take this opportunity to say it again. I think that the problem that I have is possibly being put in a position to pick and choose which organizations we support as a city and which organizations we don't, which organizations we allocate money. I think that there are a couple of entities that we have an obligation to. For example, the South Jackson Civic Center, we own the building, we have an obligation to assist. But I don't know that we have an obligation to assist with members-only organizations that are separate entities from the city of Tullahoma. I understand reinvesting in tourism, but if you look at what other cities are doing with their tourism dollars, they are not all making it rain on independent organizations. And I don't think that this that we're doing is working, and I think that the problem that we have with the Equine Center, and every year we get a new request and a new request and a new request, and we have to start saying no at some point. But I also I understand what Bobby's saying. It seems arbitrary to say you get it, but you don't. And I think that next year we have got to rein this in and start figuring out a way that the city of Tullahoma can spend those tourism dollars and allocate it towards things that we are obligatory to, that will not be picking and choosing who gets money and who doesn't.
Are you ready to hold on the motion on the floor? The motion passes 7-0. There's no other unfinished business. We'll move into new business. Ordinance number 1599, an ordinance to amend the Code of Ordinance for the City of Tullahoma by amending Title I, General Administration, Chapter 2, of the Board of Mayor and Aldermen, Section 1-20, Special Rules of Order. by substituting a new section 1-207 to consolidate the rules of procedure adopted by Resolution 1532 and the special rules of order in the municipal code. This was passage on the first of two readings. I have a motion from Barry, and a second from Lamb. Excuse me, Mr. Mathis. Apologize. With the floor open out, I want to turn ask for comments on that from the city administrator. You may want to refer to sponsor on the motion. City administrator.
There's a separate.
This was brought to our attention by Mr. Worsham, actually, brought this to us about consolidating all of these rules into one area. We had 2 or 3 different documents that we were trying to get information from. So we just worked on a process of moving those into one document so it could be put in one place. Totally up to the Board of Mayor and Aldermen if they want to amend it or change it, whatever they want to do. It was just mainly to put everything into one place so that you could look at it and see our rules and regulations.
I believe all the aldermen got copies of the changes and with the explanation attached. Probably correct now.
Yeah, I would, I see one change I think needs to be made right off the bat. I don't know if I have to make a motion to amend or how that would go, but on rule number 13, subcategory H, approval of the agenda, and it says items may be added to the agenda with a 2/3 vote from members present. I think that should just be a simple majority. That is second to the last page. That's the way we've been doing it now. Changing it to a 2/3 would be changing the rule as we've been applying it now.
I also don't like rule number 8.
Let's do one at a time.
Are you done, Kurt? I'm sorry.
Yeah, that was my change.
You don't have a request to speak, Daniel. I mean, do you want to speak? I'll let you go first. Like I said, you didn't have your little button pushed, so I didn't know.
I just didn't know if that was a motion that needed seconding or not.
How do we need to do this?
You want to do them individually, or?
Let's just see what we've got and how many we've got, and we'll come back around.
Maybe we need to just have the whole thing revised and brought back to us if we have quite a few. I don't like rule number 8, and I think everybody knows why. It's too subjective.
Which one is it?
Decorum. Members must, A, confine their remarks to the merits of the subject under discussion. I have no problem with that. And no outside conversation will be allowed. Okay, so, and no outside conversation will be allowed. What is, first of all, no sidebar conversation? Is that, what is no outside conversation? If it's relevant to the subject, okay, so I don't like the way that's worded. Maintain a courteous tone. Well, who is the...
In fact, this is our municipal code now. This is where this is from.
Well, okay, we can change the code.
Yeah, that's right, but I'm just pointing out, it's not in the rules.
But it's in this set of rules that we're discussing today.
That's right. I'm just pointing out there. We've combined the ones from...
That is correct, Mr. Mayor.
Yeah.
I understand what you're saying. So that is why I think you made a good point a second ago when you said we probably just need to discuss this, because this may turn into a situation where we need to also revise our municipal code in order to pass these rules. And perhaps we would have to revise our code first before we could pass these rules. If there were issues in these rules that did not come from those board policies, perhaps the issue comes from our code. So because it's in here, the door has been opened because we're discussing both in a combined policy. So, going back to it, may I proceed?
You may, sure.
All right, so going back to it, no outside conversation will be allowed. I have no idea what it means by that. I don't know if it means no sidebar conversation or you can't discuss something you discuss with somebody else, which would be the antithesis of open government. So I don't like that. Maintain a courteous tone. I'm often told, as a member of this body, Jenna, it's not what you say, it's how you say it. And I don't like that, because while some of you may not appreciate my satirical tone, there are others who find me quite comical. So I think that that is subjective, and you may think it's uncourteous, and I may think it's appropriate. So who is to be the decider? And is Mr. Worsham, God bless him, going to have to decide, you're uncourteous today, and be the courtesy police? And I don't think we need to have courtesy police. So we need to we're getting a little too specific and a little too subjective with some of this. Never attack nor make any allusion to the motives of others. Some of y'all are shisty at times, and you need to be called out, and I feel like that's the purpose of open government. Yes, I've said make it rain and shisty in one board meeting. I'm on a roll tonight. I've had no sleep. Y'all forgive me. So would those two terms be allowed? Are they uncourteous? Is the term shisty uncourteous? It's too subjective. This needs limited government. We need less, not more, because we are going to be splitting hairs, and that's what's caused a lot of our problems.
Alderman, let's see, our city attorney has a comment to make.
I suggested that we look at all these rules and procedures because we have three conflicting sets of rules and procedures now. And I think that Ms. Allmarker's comments are well taken. I'd like for us, maybe at some study session, when we have maybe more than one thing to discuss, and we have many weeks when we should have a study session, I believe, on things, that we look at this, y'all think about it in the meantime. Don't act upon it tonight. Mr. Wilkins did a really good job of compiling these provisions from the three sets we have right now. But I agree with the wording on that one. That is absolutely subjective. I would never know whether it's right or not. But I'd like for us to do that, to take this under advisement, look at it, study it, and put it on a study session to discuss it, so that we have one set of rules from now on that we all agree on, we all understand them, and they're going to help us move our meetings forward without a lot of haggling that sometimes we experience when there's questions about things. That's my suggestion.
Mr. Mayor, you recognize?
Yeah, we've done this like 6 or 8 times, so at this point, I don't mind. Let's a motion to postpone until such time as we decide to bring it back.
Have a motion to postpone.
I would offer to make a friendly amendment.
Okay, until we have a study session to figure it out.
Schedule a study session to
I think we can
discuss
just
how to move forward.
whatever it is, however she wants to word it, let's do it.
Oh, thanks, Daniel. You're learning.
If you make the motion, I'll second it. So let's swap. You motion and I'll second.
All right, I make a motion that we postpone until a study session can be scheduled for further discussion.
I will second that motion.
Boy, this is odd.
We're ready to vote on postponing. Passes 7-0. Number 1602, an ordinance of the city of Tullahoma, Tennessee, to adopt by reference state traffic offenses and rules of the road for passage on the first of 2 readings. Need a motion to get it on the floor. Alderman Berry, seconded by Mathis. I'll ask for background on this from city administrator or the finance director, either one.
Well, we do the city recorder. She's the one that put it together.
In fact, we'll let the city recorder give us a background on this because she knows the details better than anyone else.
Basically, this is just, right now, we send all of our court money to Department of Safety, and if we adopt the rules of the road, there's quite a few offenses that we can keep the money in-house. So,
And those are detailed on page 101. You care to look at the types of things, the offenses that we can collect the money for, and they're fairly numerous.
But they'll start making a lot more of those.
Any further discussion?
Okay. In my head, I'm hearing, whoop, whoop. That's the sound of the police.
I think we all thought of that.
Y'all know what's going to happen with this, right? I mean, I'm just saying. They're going, those quotas, have you given out enough parking tickets this week? No, I feel like we should err on the side of caution. I agree with wanting to keep the money, but let's be reasonable and make sure that we assure our citizens we do not have quotas on how many of these that we're giving out, okay?
This really has no relationship to the number of what might be written. This is where the money goes.
Point taken.
Okay, ready to vote?
well, we need a motion and a second.
You got a motion and a second.
It was on the last one.
No, we haven't. We got it.
We got it now.
That passes 7-0. Secondly, we need on resolution number 1945, a resolution to adopt the technical report for West Side Drive, Cedar Lane Corridor. That's on page 109. Concerns the work that Gresham Smith has been doing. That's a fairly lengthy report that they've submitted. Motion on the floor from...
It's not our screen.
It's not switched yet.
It's still showing the vote count.
Motion from Barry, seconded by Mann. And that's on the on West Side Heights and the Cedar Lane corridor. And we've got the motion on the floor, seconded from Mann, and refer to the city administrator for background.
Sure. Hi, my name is Sandy Sclafani, and I'm with Gresham Smith. We were selected by TDOT Long-Range Planning to prepare this corridor study. The City of Tullahoma was awarded a transportation planning grant of approximately $58,000, to which y'all provided a 10% match for this study. And what it does is it has looked at pedestrian, traffic, safety issues, and has made recommendations for the with West Side Drive and Cedar Lane from Clement Drive to North Jackson Street. It made recommendations for improvements to the corridor and the intersections within the corridor. And as part of receiving this grant money, TDOT requires that the city adopt this corridor study by resolution. And I'm here to answer any questions.
Any question from Alderman Barry?
So, I'm reading this, and so it talked about widening Cedar Lane, and it recommends that and things like that, but it's a $43.5 million estimated cost for all of those things. So, can you explain, is there I'm assuming this is the first step to something, maybe? Is it
Right.
to state grants to help with that, or?
Yes, and we split the project into 3 phases, and what the city would do is they would take this and then apply for further grants that would be for the construction and design of the roadway. So there are grants available, and this is really your first step towards getting those. So TDOT knows that you're serious about doing this because you have already performed a study, so, they know that this is something that the city has, on their radar to do in the future.
That was a huge, that was a little.
Yeah, it's a lot, but 3 phases, and look for some grant money, because there's grant money out there for sure.
And also got something else said, George Rush, Senior Planner. The grant she's talking about is the BUILD grant. It's formerly under Trump, and of course now under the current administration, it's called the RAISE. It's about $1 billion where you can go out and actually get the infrastructure, but you have to have corridor studies and also have a comprehensive plan to actually back that up. So now that we do have that, if y'all accept it, we can go after something like that.
Very good. Any further questions? Thank you to Gresham Smith. You ready to vote? Passes 7-0. Resolution number 1946, a resolution to repeal and replace resolution number 1930, adopting a spending plan for the American Rescue Plan Act funds for fiscal year 2022 through 2026, as it was revised on 2/13/23. That's on page 233 of your handout. And get a motion on the floor from Barry, seconded by Mathis. And I'd like to hear from the city administrator on background.
After our study session, we worked, this was part of our study session where we're looking at ways to fund additional projects for this year. We went with the $7.5 million loan, construction loan. We moved some things out of that ARP funding that we did a resolution on before, changed some things up. We're moving some of the other things to the $7.5 million construction loan to better facilitate the needs of the community and to continue to move forward.
Has everyone had time to digest comp plan? Barry, you're recognized.
One question on the, I just hadn't seen a number by it before, the $96,025 for the pedestrian walkway. Is that enough money to cover that if the state lets us do that?
That is enough to take care of the engineering at the present time. We're going to move the rest of it to the construction loan. Yes.
That's right. Okay.
We'd already allocated that money out. That's the reason why it's still in the American Rescue Plan. So.
Thank you.
Okay.
You recognize them.
Okay, 3 and 9, the garbage trucks. One is the one we already purchased.
Yes.
That was the 215, correct? Or was that the other one?
We'll get to it real quick.
The 299 we already purchased.
The 299, the new?
That's the one that's been replaced. That's one that's been bought.
Did we have 2 garbage trucks up here?
One was residential, one was commercial, correct?
But I didn't remember there being 2 garbage trucks on this list. We said we would buy 1 garbage truck. So where'd that other one come from?
The second one was one that was requested in this year's equipment.
Because it broke down.
Oh.
We couldn't get parts or more.
Okay, you decided that it might be better to come out of this funding.
Right.
Better to come out of this funding and then use the construction loan for construction projects, because we don't really have any other source right now for equipment.
Okay, all right, now I'm back around. I'm sorry, I'm still digesting. Oh, I hate to be the bad guy. Non-patrol SRO SUVs equipped. 9?
7 is the SRO, and 2 are for replacement of what we would have normally have done anyway. The The 7 are additional cars because we have additional officers.
Right, but...
The 2 are replacement.
Yes, but we didn't get 9 new officers, right? Because we have, current staff is filling in those positions. Did we hire 9 new people?
No, there's 7 are new ones.
We've hired 6 new people so far. We have one school that is being covered at the present time, working on trying to hire that next person for that school. They've hired 5 and they've got 2 openings still.
But these are, okay, do we currently have, it may not be SRO SUVs, but do we currently have vehicles for those individuals? Are they driving police cars right now?
No, they're driving their own vehicles.
They're driving their own vehicles.
What is the need? I'm sorry, I've got to just play devil's advocate here. What is the need for an SRO SUV equipped if they're out of school? What is the need? And why do we need 9 of them? And why, if there's not an emergency, can we not send a vehicle there?
No, we're not. It's not 9, it's 7 SROs. 2 are part of the equipment purchase plan that was in the budget, and we're just moving them over to the ARP and using construction.
Yeah, but there's 9 on here.
Yeah, there's 9 on there, but 7 of them are for the SROs, 2 are for replacement equipment.
So 2 is fine. We've already pretty much approved the 2.
Yes.
This would add 7.
Yes.
7's a lot. And considering all of the infrastructure needs that we have, and I'm just being honest with you, we got some issues in our police department right now. I mean, I am for a merit-based, y'all can disagree with me, y'all can whatever. We got some training issues, we've got some things that need to be corrected, we've got some rapport that needs to be built. I want our departments to be funded through merit-based practices. And this is a new program, and I want it to be successful, and it's a need, and we need it. But I don't know that I see the need for 7 new SRO SUV. If they're in the school, I don't see the need for that. If somebody can show me the need, I'm all game. I'm there. If it's something we need and it's for safety and it's for the kids, or is it for the cop to look good on school campuses? Because right now it kind of sounds like it's for the cop to look good on school campuses. And again, I want them to be safe. I want the students to be safe. I want them to have everything that they need. But I don't see the need here.
I do have a quick question. So for the SROs, and are they going to be are they going to work outside when they're not doing the SRO? Are they going to be on patrol?
They will still have some patrol duties.
Okay.
They will still have some patrol duties. They're not going to work. We've had SROs in the past that worked, and they worked comp time, and we were off all summer long. These SROs will work throughout the year. This won't be.
So there'll be full-time employees outside of the SRO?
They'll have other duties as well as SROs.
So can we not have a fleet of vehicles that when the shift changes, potentially vehicles could change? Why does every single officer need their own vehicle?
It's become a common practice for municipalities throughout the state. It's kind of part of our package when they come. They expect to have a drive home.
They can expect all they want to, but I don't know who started that. That's not
just become common practice. And
I don't like that common practice.
It's just the way it is.
I don't think Tullahoma is not keeping up with Joneses.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. And I'm not trying to call anyone out here, but we want to sit up here and we want to say the police need this, the police don't need that. But how many, and I know the answer to this, have met with our police chief, have went and looked at those vehicles and have said, why do we need, ask those questions. Ask the people that are asking for it. Talk to them. And I talked to the police chief, and he said that in his, I think he's been here around 4 years, he's spoken with 2 aldermen in all that time. And, I felt the same. Why do we need all these police cars? That's a lot of money. But talk to the police chief, ask them what they need before we sit up there and we say, well, they get this, they don't get that. Talk to our department heads.
Where's the
reach
police
out to
chief
them.
tonight?
Excuse me, it's my time.
Yeah, no.
1 second, nope. And the police chief told me, we looked at the cars, we went through them. Kenny, I'm sorry.
Sorry.
We went through them, and I would invite everyone else to do the same before we sit up here and we say, you don't need them, or you want them just to look good. Did you know why most police departments across this country are switching to SUVs for police cars? In fact, there's only one car manufacturer that still makes police cars. Everyone's switching to SUVs because one of the number one injuries a police officer has is to their lower back, getting in and out of the car with all that equipment on. An SUV would mitigate that. So until you get these answers, until you ask these questions, we can't sit up here and just say, nope, don't get it. We should do our homework. And these vehicles are the police officers, the patrolmen's offices. This is where they work. We ask them to put their lives on the line. We ask them to make sacrifices, their time, their family, and we're going to sit up here and say, but we don't want to give you a car. And right now, our SROs are going to the schools in their own vehicles. But, just the other day, I saw another police car being towed right in front of my office. We have issues. They are not going to go away just because we don't want to spend the money. So I would encourage everyone, before we go in there trying to meddle with this, to talk to your police chief, talk to your department heads if it's other issues, before we do it. Because I'm not a police officer, I'm not an expert.
Alderman Berry, you recognize?
Well, our man crushed it there, really, so I don't have much more to say outside of, I agree, until you've been down there and you have seen the vehicles and you have talked to the officers. I have had an officer who was in trouble and other officers trying to get to that officer, and they hopped in their vehicle and the vehicle didn't go. So that put a citizen's life at risk. That put that officer's life at risk. I know that it may sound awful, but, there's somewhere air conditioning doesn't work. I'll tell you right now, air conditioning doesn't work in my vehicle right now, and good Lord, it is miserable in there, and I'm not wearing gear. And, it's just, to say, you said it all. I'm not going to say anything. I think we just vote on this and be done.
Alderman Hallmarker, you're recognized again.
Well, sorry to interrupt you. I really did have a legitimate question. It's my understanding that our police chief is feeling under the weather tonight.
He twinged his, well, I'm not going to say what he did, but he's out today. He's hoping to be back in the morning.
Well, I'll say this. I have had dinner with a couple of our officers here recently, and I have asked those very questions. So I don't think we should imply that we aren't doing our homework. But I will say that to your point, we have vehicles that need to be replaced. This is not replacement vehicles. We have vehicles that need to be replaced, but we're buying 7 brand new offices, as Mr. Mann would like to put it, for people who are going to be in a school building all day. Well, to me, that, if we're going to buy new vehicles, shouldn't we start with the ones that need to be replaced, that don't have air conditioner, that aren't going? And, I would also say this, it's not my job to seek out the police chief when he wants 10 new vehicles. It's his job to seek out me and tell me why he needs 10 new vehicles, or have the city administrator come and tell us and plead this case. And I realize we have an interim here, but this is a big ask. And I think we have to weigh this out. I don't think that we should be spending this money on fluffs and perks and keeping up with the Joneses. This money needs to go towards things that the city, that the average citizen is going to benefit from. One of the most common complaints I get is the money that we have spent on building this police department. That is one of the most common complaints I get about how much money we've spent on our police officers. Because the average citizen will never see the inside of that building. Yet, here we come back again, and we want, 10, 15 new vehicles every year. And we got to have 9 brand new keeping up with the Joneses because, hey, nobody's going to want to come be a cop in Tullahoma. That's absolutely not true. And I've spoken to 3 officers that said that, no, we actually have a very comparable pay plan and great benefits. And people are not coming here because we're giving them new SUVs. I don't believe that. And people aren't leaving because their cars aren't the greatest. That's not why they leave either. Now, sure, it'd be nice, and I want them to have that. I just want to make sure we're prioritizing, because I don't think that building this police department was prioritizing, and I don't think we've been prioritizing for a long time. So if they need it, I'm for it. If they don't, let's get something we need first.
Alderman Mann.
So, and Ms. Wilson, you can correct me if I'm wrong on this, but there are funds being requested on that $7.5 million loan we're taking out to replace police cars, correct? That was on that list?
Not on, the $7.5 million is construction. The equipment was moved, is being proposed over here.
So we're moving it over here.
Yeah, so this is where the equipment is right now.
No replacement.
So the second thing I would say is when we all decided SROs were a good thing. Folks came, they talked to us. Everyone on this board thought we needed SROs. It was the right decision at the right time. But with SROs came other expenses, and we were very fortunate because none of us knew how we were going to pay for SROs at the time we committed to doing it. And we were fortunate that the state of Tennessee stepped in and helped us out with that. Now what we're being asked to do by the police department is to provide them with vehicles. And, again, talk to your police chief. That's great you've talked to some of the officers, but don't let it stop there. Find out why. I went to him and I said, tell me why you need these. And I would just encourage you to do the same. Again, we all wanted SROs. It was all unanimous, no dissent, no argument. But now we want to stop short on this. And this is what they're saying we need. So,
Alderman Berry.
Call the question.
Questions called.
Call the previous question. Yeah, vote on call the question first, yeah. First you vote on call the question to end debate, and then we vote.
Can we call the question to end debate? Did you get the vote? You never voted.
Her screen didn't flip.
I never even voted.
You got a vote
They counted
later.
me as 7.
I need to read.
Where did we buy this system from?
Yours is different.
Wow.
Okay, we're ready to revote.
Voting from the dead over here.
Is this on the question? Or?
Yeah.
Voting on the call the question to end the vote. End debate. The debate is in, call the question. Now we'll vote on the issue, vote on the motion. We voted to end debate. Now we call the question on the motion. Ready to vote. Passes 6-1. Moving on to resolution number 1947. A resolution to amend the FY '24 operating budget to formally appropriate the planned spending for the debt service fund. That's on page 236. Need a motion. Motion from Derek, seconded by Clegg. Ask City Administrator for the background.
I'm going to Let's see, we talked to you about that.
Yes, Mayor. The state reviewed our budget, and they requested that we, in addition to showing all of the payments that we're making for debt, that we also added those under being formally appropriated in the summary of funds at the beginning. They asked the sinking fund from the school and the city's debt service both be shown there, as well as where we had them before. So you're seeing the same numbers, just in a different, adding them in a different format. And this will satisfy what the state is looking for an approval.
Any questions? So motion is second, and we got it approved from the city finance director. We're ready to vote. Passes 7-0. Item number 23-137, consider approval of street paving. And the details for those streets are going to start on page 242. You saw the pictures of some of the streets that are included in this plan. A motion from Barry, a second from Mathis. Background from city administrator.
I'll let Butch talk to you about that.
Approval of this list tonight, probably in the next couple weeks to a month, we'll be doing $1.3 million in paving. That's last year's and this year's together. I held off because we did the budget, or did the bid for street paving in June, so I held off. We had to get in line, and kind of at the beginning of this year's budget, didn't know what we were getting, so I had to combine that, so I put it off a little longer so we could kind of make streets work out, numbers kind of work out a little better.
Butch?
Yes, sir.
Would you not agree that West Lincoln needs it terribly?
Absolutely.
It does. It's awful.
It is.
And that's a main thoroughfare, and it's not good for travel.
I don't disagree with you.
It's awful.
So I live down West Lincoln. And the road itself's not in terrible condition, right? It's
Correct.
these utility cuts that are the problem.
That is correct.
Because it is.
We're falling in a lot of holes.
I will say I'm working with Butch on something right now. He's given me a lot of, from different cities, utility cut approval processes, and I've been going through those. Butch gave some suggestions on ones he liked, so hopefully by next meeting I can bring back to this board a suggestion that we could adopt for a street cut approval process, or I can't, the term escapes me right now, but it'd be a process where we could monitor that and ensure to everybody that once a street is cut, it's repaired properly. Permitting process.
Okay.
Any other question? Street paving is approved by 7-0. Going on over to page, next page. Item number 23-138. This is one we discussed in the study session tonight. Consider approval of selecting applicants for the city administrator to be interviewed by the Board of Mayor and Aldermen. This time we can get around to someone to offer a motion for this process.
We just did.
Putting down in a formal session, we need to do that.
Well, I thought that's what was just done on the screen here. The motion was made by Daniel Berry.
I think you just asked to lay it out. So I think what we had discussed, just so it's on record in this meeting, was that we would each put down 5 names, pass them to Lori, And then how did we want to just include the full, or do we want to narrow it down to who got the vote? My thing is if we say, all right, this person got 4 votes, this person got 3, is that how we want to do it, or just want to say?
I don't think we should.
Take all 5 and just write them all down.
Yeah, I don't think we should rank them at this point. It might,
Definitely don't rank.
yeah, we don't want to rank them with a vote because
But
that
do we
would,
narrow it down? So say we all turn in 5, but there's 4 that aren't
on everybody's list, yeah. Then we'll just take all
just
the
include
ones with a max of 10.
Let me point out that what we're doing right now is just selecting the ones that we want to interview.
That's correct.
And if we're just selecting the ones we want to interview, we may have, we got 7 people, we may have 35 names.
That's true.
Well, be I think with a max of 10.
So I think we need to select 10 that get the most votes to select.
Probably won't be that many.
I'd like to keep it down to 5 if we could.
Can we start with, this may be a good starting spot, because let's turn them in. Let's see where we're at, see how many names we have in total. And then if we have 35, then let's decide to narrow it down from there. But, if we end up with 7, or if we end up with 8, we end up with, whatever, we end up with 5. I hope there's somebody on there that I hope.
There's only 27 applicants, so we can't have 35 unless we've just...
I mean, we could just make names up.
Unless we're putting in our own right now.
No, we actually have 38.
Yeah, it's 38.
Oh, okay.
Yeah. 38. Now, with this, has everyone...
I've turned mine in already.
She's good.
Okay, so we have, I thought we said up to 10.
No, 5.
5. You want to revise?
We need to vote on that.
I mean, if you want to put I can't tell you.
At this point,
one of those on
actually, while we're getting the names, we actually need, you have a motion and a second to go through this process.
We got it.
We got a motion and a second. Varying
Gotcha.
That's the motion. Now then, is there any further discussion? If not, we're ready to vote on this process. Ready to vote.
Hang on.
The process is that we're going to interview these people.
I don't know that we need, hang on, well, let's
That's what I'm saying. I want to know what he's wanting to vote on.
Yeah, I don't know that we need to vote. I think that until we get our list, right?
We were going to see how many.
Yeah,
Right, yeah.
I think that's what we end up voting on is that list.
We've got the motion. We're in discussion stage right now. And with the discussion stage, we're going to present the numbers to our city young lady.
Yeah.
And see where we stand.
Yeah.
And with that, I'm going to call a recess until we can get the votes into the city recorder. And within 5 minutes or so, we'll be back in session.
I don't think I put the name on that.
be back in session. The city recorder has done a stellar job of taking 5 votes from 7 people and distilled those votes, and it's fairly interesting, the outcome. And I'd like for the city recorder to read the names of the ones and the number of votes that each one got.
So there were 10 names total.
Interesting.
You have to also say who voted for who. You have to get it all on the record somehow. I don't know how you're going to do that, but...
Just read each list.
Yeah, I would read each list and then tally.
I'll read each list and then I'll read the order or the number of each votes per candidate.
And no random order.
No random order. Jenna Almack, Kenneth Pearson, Jason Quick, Scott Collins, David Stroll, correct? Sharon Walls, Daniel Berry, Chris Dorsey, David Stroll, Scott Mazzanos, Kenny Pearson, Jason Quick. Alderman Wilson, Kenny Pearson, Jason Quick, Scott Collins, Richard Hugh, Randall Smith, Mayor Noes, Marsh, Dorsey, Mazzanos, Pearson, and Smith. Derek Mann, Scott Collins, Kenneth Pearson, Jason Quick, Richard Hughes, Randall Smith. Terry Mathis, Marsh, Quick, Pearson, Straw, Dorsey. Kurt Glick, Dorsey, Straw, Mazzaros, Pearson, Quick. So Kenny Pearson was given 7 votes, Jason Quick 6, Christopher Dorsey 4, David Straw 4, Scott Mazzaros 3, Randall Smith 3, Scott Collins 3, Patrick Marsh 2, Richard Hughes 2, Sharon Walls 1.
With that, we have...
We have 3 and up.
We have 4. The top 4 got 4 or more votes. 4, 6, and 7.
The top 4, who are the top 4 again? It would be Pearson, Quick,
Dorsey, and Straw.
Dorsey, and Straw.
Those are the top 4. The next 3 each got 3 votes. So if we were to try to select 5, it doesn't make sense because you wouldn't know which of those they got 3. So my suggestion is to select 4, top 4, interview the top 4 candidates.
I agree with that.
Okay. It's quite unlikely that one of those that got only 3 votes would be considered anyway. So if you take the top 4, you don't have to split the 3, and we get on with doing interviews. And
I think that sounds like a proper thing. Let's talk about...
Kenny Pearson, Jason Quick, David Straw, and Scott, no, I'm sorry, and Christopher Dorsey.
Kenny Pearson, Jason Quick.
Christopher Dorsey, David Straw.
So we need a motion first to say...
you recognize the motion.
I make a motion that this board moves forward with interviewing via Zoom first. Does that work for everybody?
It could be the candidate's choice. If we have local candidates that may choose to do it local, then they
I think we ought to make it, I think we ought to make it, it's just 4 people, I think they need to be in-person interviews.
I kind of agree with that. I mean, we're down to 4. 4 is in person.
I believe Dorsey is in state.
City, yeah.
Straw is not.
No.
Well, and are we going to give a time limit too? I mean, so if they're not available within a certain amount of time, then maybe we could do it Zoom, right? Without.
I mean, we're gonna have to pay for them to come here and do all that, so
But what if they can't?
I would say this is kind of a screen, like initially, normally you do like a first interview, right? Like this is just kind of a screen interview, and then we still need to have them do.
I've never been paid to
Like when
attend a
we
job
come,
interview.
I mean, when I had to go through like 5 interviews to get, I mean, like 15 hours.
Paid to do your job interviews? Oh, I forget the people you work for, so maybe you were.
No, I didn't get paid to do
Totally
mine.
kidding, totally kidding. It's a joke.
I think it's appropriate
Watch that.
for the candidate to have a choice to either come here in person or do a Zoom interview.
It
I'll
could
make a
take
motion.
longer too, because if they've got to line up travel plans and match their schedule, that can drag this on even further.
Well, then they all ought to be Zoom. I don't think I think it needs to be equal.
I like the equal idea. I think it needs to be all the same. And listen, I think if you're serious, and we've narrowed you down to the top 4, and you're the only out-of-state candidate, you want this job, you'll come talk to us.
I don't want to pay for them. Well,
We don't pay for them. Who does
Let's
that?
roll back first. Let's get a motion, let's get a second. and
Well,
then-
we may have done that in the past, but I'm not for that.
I make a motion.
You're recognized.
I'm not for that.
I make a motion that the board moves forward with the first interviews with the following candidates: Kenny Pearson, Jason Quick, Chris Dorsey, and David Strahl. With, I don't know, do I want to put a time frame on it?
The next agenda item is.
Next agenda item is scheduled.
Is to schedule that. So we move forward at candidate's choice, and then we can get a second, and then we can have a discussion on whether we want to do that or not.
We've got a motion. Motion from Barry, a second from,
Well, that was on there already, but I'll second it for discussion.
okay? And the discussion is whether or not to allow candidate choice for interviews.
I just think there could be some unwitting things on our part that may favor the candidate that's interviewing in person versus Zoom, or vice versa. So I think we ought to make it all equal, so that mistake may not happen.
I just think that they all need to be here in person, and we need to interview in person. I'd like to see how they handle themselves, and you can't do that by Zoom.
I agree.
What if we see first if they're just able to all be here in person, and then it's moot?
Well, if they can't be here, then they're probably going to be eliminated.
What you said, I say, if we're going to pay one to be here, the others that live in town shouldn't, be smacked on the hand. We should give them a $100 lunch. We can take them to a steak dinner during their interview, I'm just kidding. So what I'm saying is, we shouldn't be paying people to come interview with us if you're serious about the job. I don't care what's been done previously. We will not, Jenna quote, perpetuate ignorance for the sake of tradition. We're not paying for anybody to come interview with us. I agree with it being in person, or being all the same, and I agree they need to be here in person.
Hey, you will never obtain greatness without opportunity. There you go.
Barry, you want to tell your motion so that we...
Well, hang on. I don't mean this in a, and please don't take this in a off way. How many people in here do a lot of when I say hiring, I'm talking about 100 plus, 200 plus, and are in charge of those type workforces, and have done, I know you have, and have done these executive level. There's a big difference between hiring somebody at McDonald's and hiring an executive level person, right? And I don't mean this terrible, but we also, we just need to screen them first. We may talk to one of these guys in a 15-minute interview and decide, no, we don't want you here, period, right? So my suggestion is that we start with like a 15, 20-minute screen that's a phone call or a Zoom to decide, do we even want to waste our time bringing you here to talk to us, right? I mean, that's where you should start, because we don't know some of you voted on, and I don't mean this bad again, but some of you voted on somebody tonight who was fired from the last job for an assault charge. So we've got some of that screening that would be nice for us to do before we say, let's fly somebody down here and do this. So that's my suggestion is, let's take these 4 names and do a 15, 20-minute screen interview first, and then decide if we even want them to come down here, and then we move forward with. That is my suggestion.
Well, then if they're all, I just think it needs to be an equal footing for all the candidates to be, and I'm good with a 15-minute Zoom interview of each of the 4 candidates, and then we decide which of the 4 we want to have come back. It could be all 4, it could be 2 of the 4.
Yeah, I'm okay with that. I mean, I don't care.
And then are we all going to be present?
We're going to have to be.
Yeah.
For that, yeah.
It's going to have to happen here.
But we don't, if it's on Zoom, we don't have to be here, right?
Oh.
No, you do.
Yeah, we do.
You do?
And that's
We
fine.
have to be here.
Okay.
I'm fine with that. It just moves it forward, but I don't want to invest the time in somebody I've never screened.
Refine the motion that you're making.
I never finished getting it out. So I'd like to make a motion that we do an initial interview with Kenny Pearson, Jason Quick, Chris Dorsey, and David Strahl, and schedule an initial screening interview by Zoom. Are you going to sit in the room next to it? By Zoom, or if they are by Zoom.
Okay, that's a motion. And you seconded it.
Okay, sounds good. There's a second and
Any further
everything.
discussion of,
Yeah, I'll just say that I think that's silly when 3 of them live in state. I just think it's really silly.
Well, then they all ought to be here.
I think they all ought to be here. So I would have to vote. I mean, again, we're wasting time. Wasn't that y'all's whole thing, is we're wasting time? I don't need a 20-minute Zoom interview with a guy that's sitting out in the audience tonight or with the one that's sitting right there. We need to get to business. And if we're not going to do the assessment centers, this is the assessment center. This is the assessment center. I think we need to be very prepared, and we need to do our own assessment center, and they need to be here, because I also think that they might make a bad impression over a Zoom, and we never get the chance to meet somebody great.
Fine, whatever, I don't care. Let's just do something. I could care less at this point.
Also, we should probably clarify who's going to contact these people.
Yeah, I know, we don't have.
Yeah, that's true.
Our thing says HR cannot.
I think it should be the mayor.
I think the mayor is appropriate.
Is this happening by Zoom or not?
No, we're gonna,
In person.
get them here.
I just need to know how they're.
Should we at the same time schedule, because are we going to do, well, let's back up. Are we going to do interviews with the staff committee and the citizens committee? Because if we're going to have them here in person, then we need to do all that at the same time, so we're not having somebody fly back and forth multiple times to do that.
this board needs to do their work and select.
That could be the
Yeah, we just
assessment
need
center.
to. I don't think we need to.
You could do that as our own assessment center.
I don't care. I mean, I do care. I don't want to say I don't care. I'm okay with getting rid of the assessment center, right? But I'm not okay with getting rid of the staff, their peer interview, a panel of their peers interviewing them, and a citizen panel interviewing them. We take that under advisement, and they're not going to narrow down, but I think that it is important. This is not just a decision for us, right? I mean, they work for us, but they're going to be in charge of the staff. Their staff works for them, and the community should have some. We at least need to feel like they're a part of this.
I'll just throw
I hate
that.
saying it that way, but
I'll just throw
let's just
this.
quit cutting them out.
Yeah, I understand. I understand both ways, but I'll just tell you, and it hit home, and there was more than one person that called me and said this, but it hit home because he called me and said, what is all this about MTAS and the Citizens Committee or whatever? He said, I elected you, or I voted for you, and we, as citizens of Tullahoma, voted for the Board of Mayor and Aldermen to make the decision. who's going to be city administrator, and that's who I expect to make the decisions, the Board of Mayor and Aldermen. So with that said,
We're going to make that decision, but there's getting input from others and weighing that input.
well, we've already got input from MTAS and the Citizens Committee.
Yeah, we just kind of said.
So would the staff be present for the same Zoom call? Is that what you're suggesting?
Because traditionally, we have them ride around with somebody, they drive them around the city and show them all, like, we need to think about all of that. Like, there's a lot that we're not thinking about here. I mean, we got two who are from here, but, I mean, maybe they still want to get driven around. Jason probably hadn't seen all that. But these other ones, like, that's the stuff that you take them around and you meet different things, because I am fairly well versed in a lot of municipal things, but there are going to be things that maybe this person says to Butch, and Butch is like, dude, this is a giant red flag. This dude has kind of just BS'd his way through all of this, and you need to think about that. I mean, that's the kind of stuff that they're going to pick up on. But we're not. We're elected, right? But I'm a software engineer. You're a print guy. You're a realtor. You're an educator, right? You're Jenna. You're Jenna. What we're not is public works directors. We're not fire chiefs. We're not police chiefs. We're not. And so getting the input of these people is extremely valuable, I think. And maybe it's not. Maybe it's not. But I believe that it is. You've elected me to make a decision, but I make my decisions based off, in my real world job, based off of the input of everyone around me, because I don't know everything. And so you surround yourself with people that do, and you get the input from them. That's where I'm kind of at with this, is let's just, let's.
Okay, I make a motion.
Let me have a comment to make first.
Okay, I got a motion.
With 4 candidates, we're going to interview 4. This board can select one, and we can decide who we want to make that offer to. Before we make that offer to them, we invite them to go around, do what you're talking about doing. They may choose not to be a candidate anymore.
After they meet the staff, you mean? Is that what you're saying?
And the board, don't forget us.
But anyway, then we have to go to number 2. When we did this 5 years ago, we did this. We had 3 candidates that took around to the city and introduced them to various department heads. The very thing. Before we made an offer to one. But all 3 of them got to go around. But to do what you want to do, that's a way to do it.
I mean, that's what I'm suggesting is what we did.
And as long as we talk and drag this out, they're all going to quit. They're going to be like, forget it.
Make your motion.
Alderman Mann, you recognize?
She was up.
I make a motion to have the mayor schedule an interview process with the 4 selected candidates, Pearson, Quick, Dorsey, and Strahl, to include a city/department tour, a Q&A session with department heads and select staff, to be chosen by members of this board and the mayor.
Which department heads?
Or, I tell you what, department heads, and if they want to bring whoever they want to bring with them, right. And the final round to be an interview, a sit-down interview with this board with question and answer. So it would be 3-part. They would do a city department tour, a Q&A with department heads and anybody that any of their staff they would like to bring, and then a final round interview, formal interview with this board.
You're talking about essentially a day for each one.
No,
I mean,
you can rotate them in here like that.
Yeah, we can rotate them.
It could happen.
I think a Friday, do it on a Friday and a Saturday.
Or Thursday, Friday, so staff doesn't have to come in. We're going to pay staff all week though.
I think it's kind of traditional in jobs like this to interview on Saturdays from what I've
never interviewed on a Saturday.
I've never interviewed on Saturday.
I'm fine with interviewing on a Saturday, especially if we have people that have other jobs and they're taking the time off to come and do this. I'm fine with a Friday, Saturday, 2 on a Friday, 2 on Saturday.
Can we just lean on the mayor to pick a day? Let's just.
Yeah, that's fine with me. I'm not strong, don't feel strongly.
Yeah, well, the motion is to have the mayor schedule and the interviews
Yeah.
to include city department tour, Q&A with department heads and staff, and then formal interview with the full board.
But can we all get a date that's going to work for us all? I mean, can we discuss that date beforehand?
I'll probably be putting some dates out there to the candidates and inviting them to come on a particular date, rather than for them to tell me when they can come.
Yes, I agree with that, but you need to make sure your board is available, I think, is what she's saying.
So that we all can be available for
How
that,
quick are
for
we
the day
wanting
that
this
you
process
choose.
to be done? Like that, I think that's the next question is, are we ready to move forward and try to schedule this
Yes, I think let's
in
do,
the next couple of weeks?
at least.
Yes.
Let's get it done, and they do need to do 2 days back to back.
Okay, well,
Yeah, let's do it all while they're here at one time.
Yeah.
Okay, at the next board meeting, I'll be prepared to tell you the dates that they are scheduled.
we want to wait that long?
Yeah, I don't think we
Let's
should wait
flesh some
that long.
dates out.
Let's flesh some dates out right now. I got my calendar. Here we go. Get it done. Okay, so today's the 14th. We probably don't want to do it on Mondays, obviously, because we have planning commission and BOMA meetings. It's going to be too big of a day. So Mondays are out. If we decided to do it as a Friday, Saturday, that would be the 18th, 19th, or the 25th, 26th. If we did it as a Thursday, Friday, that would be the 17th, 18th, or the 24th and 25th. Or if we want to try to do it all in one day, do we want to do it on the 18th or the 25th, that Friday?
I think we need to do it on the 25th.
25th?
I'm good with that.
25th.
So we're going to schedule all 4 and
Yes.
on the 25th.
Just make a day of it.
I may not be
I
here,
will
but
not be
don't
here
let that stop
doing
you.
anything on the 26th.
If
You don't have anything on the 26th?
I will not be here on the 26th. I'm already committed for that date.
Okay, the 25th it is, Mayor.
Can we do the 24th?
It'll take 2 days to do this, though.
Let's do 24th.
Well, if it's going to take 2 days, then the 24th and 25th?
How about 23rd and 24th? And we meet on the 24th.
We don't have to be here till the 24th, is that what you're saying? You schedule all schedule them all on the 23rd, and
We
then
just have to be available one day.
the formal interview with us would be on the 24th for all candidates. So you would do your tour and your Q&A with department heads on the 23rd, and then the tour or the formal interview with us on the 24th.
Board on the 24th, yeah.
Okay, board available on the 24th. Is everybody available on the 24th?
Yep.
All right, Mayor, you're inviting them to come on the 23rd and 24th for the process that we discussed.
Yeah, we're gonna say if they can't be here, then we just kind of
And that ship sails, I guess.
Then that ship sails.
That shows how bad they want it.
I hope they're not watching this meeting.
I would be.
The candidates will be invited for interviews on the
Gives them a heads up to start making their schedule.
23rd, and then there'll be a 2-day visit.
Board available on the 24th only. We will do formal interviews for all 4 on the 24th with this full board. And of course, I think that any of us that wanted to join and on the 23rd, I think that would still be appropriate if you
Can't
wanted.
be more than one of us.
Now, wait, just a minute.
No, we could talk to the candidate, we just can't discuss it amongst ourselves.
Just a minute. You talk about 23rd and 24th. It's going to take 2 days to do the tours of the departments and interviews with the departments. It's going to take 2 days to do that.
No, it should not take 2 days to do that.
Just do it quicker.
You could take,
They could go together, can't they?
No, that's kind of.
yeah, I wouldn't do it together. No, I would individualize it. No, I think you should set out, you're just going to have one big full day. I think you should set out an hour and a half block of time, 2-hour block of
About a
time.
windshield tour is all they're going to get.
Well, that's all they need. You're going to interact with them, let them interact with some of the department heads and the staff.
Well, what stinks is, Kenny, isn't it normally you that drives them around? So we can't do that. That'd be awkward. Let's vote. Let's just vote. Let's get it done. This is getting
Well,
comical.
I'll tell you, getting it done, 4 candidates in 2 days, including department head interviews and then interviews here.
Okay, Mayor. You do 2 on the 22nd, 2 on the 23rd for your tours, and then we full round interview on the 24th. Does that help you? 2 on the 22nd, 2 on the 23rd, and then full round interviews with the full board for all 4 candidates on the 24th. I think that's specific.
3 days now? Are we doing 3?
We aren't. We're just doing 1 day.
And we'll do the full board here on the 24th.
I don't know that this is good. I think it's good. I think this is good.
And this will be, we'll schedule all 4 of them here for formal interviews with this board on 24th.
Yes.
Back to back to back to back.
Yes.
And there'll be about an hour and a half each.
I'd say an hour. I'd say 45 minutes to an hour.
So my interviews are about 2 days, but
We'll slot an hour and a half, and if we don't need it, we don't need it.
Right, we just need the full day, yeah.
I mean, it's taken us 30 minutes to decide on a time, so we might already give them an hour and a half.
Now, I probably won't, I mean, I don't know that I can take off work, so, I mean, this going during the day till I'm out of work. If we're talking about 8 hours of interviews, which is fine.
I mean,
I can zoom in and call.
on the 24th.
Always going to go.
The 24th is the only time you'd have to take off.
Yeah, I mean, not be able to, don't let that stop us.
I will take off work.
I won't, if I'm allowed.
I'll even schedule it around poker tournaments.
Okay. That pretty well takes care of item 138 and 139.
Wait, do we need to vote? We'll vote. Everybody.
We need to vote, don't we?
Everybody in favor.
We don't need to vote. What are we voting on?
We have to.
I think we have to get it on the record.
Yes.
We're voting on what I said with the interviews doing the 22nd, 23rd, and 24th, where we're here on the 24th. Bingo.
You got it.
I got it.
Vote. Ready to
I
vote.
need a vote button.
Put the vote on there.
There you go.
The fastest turnaround on the button.
And that passes 43-0. Okay, we'll adjourn the regular board here and on and move into the beer board. Any public comments for the beer board? Hearing none, we'll move into the consent agenda. Ask for approval of the consent agenda.
Hold on, this is, no, we're not on the right thing. Where we need to be. Okay, there we go.
Consent agenda is approved. 7-0. And being no other unfinished business, there being no other new business, the beer board is adjourned. Have a great evening.
Have a great evening.